Hello everyone, welcome. It is Wednesday, it is 4:30 p.m. Central Time. It is office hours. Hey there, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
That's good. Same here. Taking a little break from the ridiculous heat that we have coming up this weekend.
Yep, indeed. All right, what have you been up to for the last 7 days?
I don't know. It's been all a blur, but it turns out some other folks in the community have definitely been doing some things. So I've got a couple of items that I wanted to share today that I came across.
So I should share your screen then.
I think that would be all right.
All right, I'm doing it.
All right. There we go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing came across here was that Intune in between service releases released ARM64 support for Win32 apps, which is pretty cool. So now instead of just putting together Win32 apps for 32-bit and 64-bit devices, we can now package those ARM64 applications if we need to and deploy those out to our Windows ARM devices. Pretty interesting for the folks that are starting to leverage that in the enterprise for sure. Be something that I'll be trying out here shortly. Also came across, sticking with Intune, came across a tweet from Eswar Kennedy. I hope I'm pronouncing that all right. I apologize if I am not. I know he's been a staple in the community for a long time, but he pointed out a little quality of life improvement on the Intune side of things. So if we go over to our applications here, we can go to our Windows apps, let's say. There are a couple of columns that have been added. I'm not sure when exactly they were added, but the date added field as well as the last edited field have been added in here, which is fantastic. This allows you to clean things up. Maybe if you've got some stagnant applications that have been added quite a while ago, maybe they've already been replaced. So we can add those fields now and sort by those fields. So even as I'm looking here, I have a couple of applications in my own tenant that I see I created back in 2022 that I can probably go ahead and remove because I bet they've been replaced at this point. So very cool, like I said, quality of life addition here, addition to Intune. And lastly, I came across this blog post here from Thomas Markuson. Looks like he was troubleshooting some device join errors with Entra ID on some Teams room devices, and wrote a little blog post here around specifically some of the errors that they were seeing, as well as kind of what that process looks like as you join devices. A little bit stepping through the difference between registered Entra join and hybrid Entra join, and then goes into a little bit more information. So very useful. Does show a little bit of troubleshooting here in terms of how we can fix this one specific error code that they were seeing. But I thought it also gave some nice general information for this process as well. So those were the things that I came across for this past week.
All right, then. I have been arguing with an XML file for a little while here, but I figured I could share a little bit about that process because not too many people know this, but see if I can get rid of that extra screen. Every Windows ISO that you download from Microsoft contains a bit of a manifest called Up with Matrix XML. So we have the name up here and this one here. If I can zoom right, it will be great also. Try again. Usually proud myself of zooming, but this time I kind of. So this is the file that exists on the ISO, and it will show you every possible version that is the target from this ISO, and what source edition you can migrate from, and what capabilities that are available to as part of that migration. So for example, in this case, you can see that this particular option supports indeed a full upgrade through, but you will also find, if you search for full upgrade equals false, that there are certain versions where you simply cannot migrate from or to. Like the evaluation versions of Windows, there are some restrictions there, but I found this file particularly useful when trying to figure out upgrade paths in between different versions, because the Microsoft documentation on the topic is not always super clear. So I just want to mention that. I thought it was pretty cool. I was hoping to write up a little post about this also, but I didn't come that far just yet. Now, we also had a quite interesting topic through the week, or I thought. Let me just close these windows here and open up a fresh one. We did discussing mowers, because I managed to run our own lawnmower into a tree stump, and that is ending up with some surgery on the deck. But Gary Block shared this visual on how it apparently would look when I was driving around with my mower and got hit by a, blue shell from Mario here. So just wanted to share that picture. I thought it was funny, at least. Now, on a more serious note, here, Rudy Ohms had a blog post that was posted, I guess it was last Friday, since it was 2 days after office hours, and then he was updating that one earlier today. But basically, he found out that if there are too many required apps deployed in general in Intune, not to the Autopilot setup, but just too many of them, it will actually make Autopilot fail and not go through that device, that enrollment status phase. So he, as usual, in the traditional Rudy Ohms style, he did a serious deep dive on everything that is going on behind the scene, all these different like hidden phases that kicks in, and how to troubleshoot it with flowcharts and whatnot. So if you're interested in a deep dive on troubleshooting Autopilot and apps, well, this is it. Also to mention, you should not be deploying too many devices or applications to the Autopilot process, but that in this case was actually not the case. It was just that there was apps deployed in general and Autopilot didn't like it.
Interesting. Deep dive, Rudy. I'm so surprised.
I'm not particularly surprised, no. All right, so that was all I had from like the regular news, but we did a webinar on, it was yesterday. Andrew and I, we shared our notes from the field regarding upgrading to Windows 11. That particular webinar is now available. So if you missed it, you can go ahead and simply sign up to that one. The price is just right. It's a free mini course for the community, but we spend an hour and a half sharing our tips and tricks on Windows 11 upgrades. And this is not just from 10 to 11. It also covers 11 to 11, which a lot of folks are dealing with as well. And I have to say, the last 20 minutes, we got some really good questions and discussions going. That was not part of the original agenda, but it just turned out to be a great technical discussion. And speaking on the Academy, we have mentioned a couple of times that we do have a community, a technical forum. If you do have any questions coming in or that you want to ask, for example, for us to bring up on office hours, feel free to use this one. This community is simply organized into different spaces, Intune, ConfigMgr, PowerShell, MDT, you name it. And all our instructors are keeping an eye on this one. And also we have about 600 people like you, that that are also commenting and answering questions. So yeah, it's a good forum to say the least. So highly recommend to join that one. And speaking of that community, I just want to share about one question that came up a little while ago here, and that was about the connected cache setup for Intune. So I just wanted to share that resource because I did write up a blog post about it on the topic. So last year, Microsoft released the Microsoft Connected Cache, standalone cache that runs on either Windows 11, Linux, or Windows Server. It's just a container acting as a cache. Think Squid Proxy, but for delivery optimization. So this guide will take you through the setup. And then once that is up and running, you will have those metrics available. Well, you will see it on the client that is talking to a cache server, but you will also have it up in Azure where you will see how effective your cache server is in your environment. So if you have networks that looks pretty much like this, where you have like large branch offices where you have a lot of machines, so forget that it has Intune here, or a DP here. Just skip that little notion. Imagine that you have Intune only clients and you have a lot of them in an office type location. You can absolutely spin up local cache servers to have that content cached. So not every single client is reaching out on their own, or just making sure that you have at least one machine with all the content on it. Quite useful. So I just wanted to mention that one.
There actually was a related question that came in here asking if it was GA already.
No, it is not GA. It was supposed to be an end of June, and it's not the end of June yet, so there's still hope. I haven't seen an announcement about it being GA, but I did sit down with Andy and Carmen at last MMS, not this year, but in 2014, and then they said that the plan was to be GA in June here. So basically, Microsoft's own fiscal year ends, so they were hoping to be GA by now. So we'll see.
Have you noticed? Yeah, exactly. We're almost there, but they got time. Have you noticed too many big changes from when it was released back in October to now?
Just a couple of bug fixes as far as I've stumbled across. I haven't seen any differences in the setup or in the management of it, but I know they have been publishing new versions. And to get the new version, I had to just reinstall the nodes or reinstall the container, download the new provision package, and set it up.
All right, good deal.
Mm-hmm. So,
right.
Do we have any questions?
I think we've got some questions and comments here. Jordan joining us over on YouTube. Couldn't believe we weren't at WP Ninjas UK in Scotland. Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah, was that the one that was in Edinburgh? Because I think Niehaus was there.
That sounds right.
I was on a call with him earlier this morning. That must have been the event. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I would have been nice to go there. I happen to be liking whiskey a lot, and they have a very, very fancy whiskey museum in Edinburgh. It's like some 3,000 different kinds. So, yeah. Anyway.
I suspect you and I would have had a good time over there.
Yeah.
We'll have to keep it in mind for the future.
Indeed. I did a trip a couple of years back there. We basically went from distillery to distillery buses for 4 days. Tasting. I was like, this was amazing. Would definitely up for doing that again.
Awesome. I'll write that down in my notes here.
Do not recommend driving for 2 reasons. A, under influence, you should not be driving. Plus, they drive on the wrong side of the road. So.
Yes, for us over here, that would make it so much more confusing.
I mean, that's a challenge in normal cases. I can only imagine how it would be.
Exactly. Well, that's why you don't do it in the first place anyways, right?
Exactly. Simple as that.
Uh,
All right.
all right. Well, yes, we would have loved to say hello, Jordan, and if we were there, we would have. So thanks for
Indeed.
that. I see Matthew chiming in with a question that he had last week and I think yesterday as well during the webinar. Finally able to get Windows apps to install with add-appx provision package. Thank you for the suggestion. I think that was from Jeff last week. So yes, thank you. Love to see when we get this collaboration in the chat. So I wanted to call that out. But on that note, Matthew was asking if there's a good way to find the Winget name when the get-appxPackage name doesn't really match.
No, I haven't really seen a mapping table or anything like that. I remember a couple of years back there were some scripts that you can run to trying to find the right matching package, but it's been a long while since I looked at that. Sorry.
All right.
Well, let me show the comment. Someone else might know. So throw this one out there. If anyone happen to know the answer, let us know. Should probably do a mini course on Winget also at some point. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Time with it.
I mean, we do seem to get questions about it from time to time. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can either run it standalone or you can even run it, even though it's not supported by ConfigMgr, you can still run it as a package in ConfigMgr and other platforms just to have it run and install stuff. So,
Yep. All right. So Benny is using the SharePoint Migration Tool, migrate files over to SharePoint. It's a clever name. Seeing a warning regarding long path names. Do you know of any scripts that can resolve these warnings?
not that I've seen. I mean, certainly seen PowerShell scripts that can warn you if paths are too long, but I haven't seen one that will automatically shorten it. But I'm assuming some sort of variant can be made of that one. The reason I stumbled across it was that MDT had a trouble with too long path names when you imported operating systems because some of those folders are like really long back in the days of Windows 8, I guess it was. So, but no, sorry, nothing for SharePoint that I know of.
No, I would just think some, kind of like you mentioned already, Johan, some custom, figuring out the length of specific files with a get child item or something like that, and then renaming them to truncate that path on your own, however you would want to do that, would be how I would approach it. So maybe that will help Benny. Matthew's asking, is there a way to automate the updating of third-party applications with something like, for example, Chrome or AWS Workspace? Several solutions, third-party solutions to update third-party apps. Well, there is a first-party solution, right, with Microsoft, if you have the Intune suite, or you do the standalone Enterprise App Manager. Remember how much that was, Johan, if you do the standalone? You'd think by now I'd remember off the top of my head.
No.
Let's see. $2 and wait, is that right? $2.10?
Yeah, they did some price changes recently, so that might be the case.
Interesting with the pennies in there. All right. $2.10 is what it says on Microsoft's pricing webpage. So you can go that route if you want to stick with Microsoft. Otherwise, you'll have options like Patch My PC, RoboPack, quite a few. I think we shared, oh gosh, a few weeks back, somebody did well, it's actually been a couple of months, but I feel like we shared it somewhat recently. Somebody did a write-up comparing, in their opinion, all of those solutions. which would probably be worthwhile to share because we just asked, or somebody also asked a question about reviewing RoboPack and Patch My PC.
I was trying to find it as well.
Andrew Taylor.
Of course.
Got it.
The gentleman behind so many Autopilot scripts and Windows 11 customization scripts.
Yep.
I have one of his books. Maybe he's only had one book, but I have one of his. I have a book of his that I bought.
Very active. That's for sure. So I got. If you want to share my screen.
Yes, I was about to ask. There we go.
There we go. Thank you, sir. So this is a blog post that he has kept updated from time to time, basically comparing all of these different solutions right here. So you've got just Winget, starting from Winget and Chocolatey, all the way up to Patch My PC, RoboPack, Recast, a whole bunch of different options, as you can see here, that he's compared. I think there are a couple of others that are out there as well. But I think this is a good start. Johan and I have had a lot of great luck with Patch My PC. We have that installed in our labs. But obviously there are additional options that might work differently for another organization. But I would start here in review Andrew's blog post.
Awesome.
All right. Let's see. Gary's joining us with a couple of comments here. Knee houses everywhere. Yes, that is also true. I'm not sure. Do you know if he ever sleeps?
Not entirely sure.
It remains a mystery.
There have been rumors of him sleeping, but I cannot tell for sure.
Gary also had a reminder for their OSD day at Twin Cities Systems Management User Group in July. Fantastic day if you get the opportunity to go up there. They do an Intune day and an OSD day typically each year.
Do you happen to have the link handy to that one?
I don't, but we can race to see who gets it first. No, I'll find it. There's Intune Day. I see it on the schedule here. So I do see it on the schedule, but I don't actually see. I haven't come across an announcement or anything. It is July 15th.
All right then, perfect. I was just searching for it. I stumbled across. Let me. This is a legendary picture. I can get it over here. This is some memories bringing back one of the early OSD days. Forgot what the year is what, but that was a while ago. House, Terrell, David, and of course Gary. So, not this year's setup. I am not there this year, but good event nonetheless. All right.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So Nicholas here on YouTube has a question around ConfigMgr. At a customer, I'm seeing an error on SMS MP Control Manager. The MP could not find some class or property definitions when processing hardware inventory, as they are apparently missing in smsdef.mof. Unknown classes and properties have been ignored, and a MIF file generated with all the classes and properties that could be found. Any idea on where I could look or solve this issue?
I'm Not from the top of my head, but having missing classes is actually quite common. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem that needs to be dealt with, but if it is a problem, I no, I would have to do some research on that, not from the top of my head.
I can't say I've had to deal with that one specifically either. All right. Matt is joining us over here on YouTube, asking how to use a service account for the HelpDesk team to enroll devices more than 500 to up to 1,000. So for that, if that is going to be Intune, which it sounds like, you're going to want to use Device Enrollment Manager accounts. Those, if you want to switch over to my screen for a minute, Johan, I can show the documentation for it at least.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll make sure to share this in our links this evening, but the Device Enrollment Manager accounts can enroll up to 1,000 devices. There is a limit of 150 of these accounts in a tenant. They do have to be an actual user in your Entra ID tenant. And somewhere around here, it also shows you do need to be, there it is, you need to be an Intune administrator. Actually, that is a recent update. This was updated yesterday. So this has changed. If I recall, this used to say you needed to be a security admin or a global admin. But now you just need to be an Intune admin. All right. Anyways, this is one of those, every once in a while, Johan, we stumble across one of those great examples of how quickly things move in this cloud world. That was Andrew learning something just changed in real time. So
there you go. Yeah.
Anyways, these are user accounts that you can create in your Entra ID tenant, just like any other user account, and you can add this Device Enrollment Manager role to that account and then enroll up to 1,000 devices. There are a couple of limitations and caveats that you need to be paying attention to here, but the documentation here is pretty clear, I think, at least in the scenarios that I've come across. So I would use one of these, and I'll make sure this gets shared this evening.
Awesome.
All right. So Clive is asking us, I've ripped out MDT from ConfigMgr, but we still use MDT a lot since Microsoft is deprecating VBScript. Should I be looking at Friends of MDT?
Well, VBScript deprecation is not immediate. They haven't even set the fixed date when they will start to remove it completely. But the current thinking, the last official documentation I found was that it will start and be deprecated in 2027. So it's not like an immediate risk to work with VBScript. And I have a feeling it's going to be sticking around for a little bit longer because it's used in so many different installers, like a custom script in an MSI package and whatnot. Niehaus actually wrote a beautiful post about basically the future of VBScript. I figured I could share that one. No, I have already signed up for his email. Thank you very much. Yeah, so this one here, and this is where you can see it did a screen dump of from that official announcement. So 2027 starting to be disabled by default, but then it will be a while after that until it's removed. We just don't know when that is. That being said, I mean, VBScript is not exactly the shiniest of shiny. scripting languages these days, I would definitely recommend PowerShell. And if you're planning on continue to use MDT like Touch, either way, sure enough, the PowerShell version of it that we have here up on Friends of MDT is certainly a version that replaces it. So you can work with a more modern script language and whatnot. But we still cannot really work around, at least not easily, the limitations of MDT today, that it, for example, does not support ARM. We can fix pretty much everything else, but that one is more tricky. It will be basically that'll be a lot of coding to get that supported. But at least this one is continued to be developed, continued to be tested. We're testing it with new version of both Windows clients as well as servers. The regular MDT is not. So that's my 2 cents on it.
All right. So you did follow up here in the comments. I'm retiring in 5 years if that helps.
You might be just lucky to be able to stick around with MDT until then. We'll see.
Yep. All right.
No, but today, in reality, if you need to support imaging to cover both platforms, either you would have to go with ConfigMgr, which supports and still is supported and is continuing to develop, or we do have our friends here over at this little company. See if I can find a link. 2 Point here. House is working on a new deployment solution together with the rest of the 2 Point team. And that was a technical preview webinar done 2 weeks ago. So if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's a good hour show. So invite family and friends and join that one.
It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Matt's asking, is there a limit of time for devices to stay away from communicating with Intune or Entra before they start failing? Talking about devices that are in the middle of nowhere, no internet connection whatsoever.
In theory, yes. I mean, that can be 2 aspects to it. If I open up my Intune tenant here, one of my Intune tenants here. Every device gets enrolled will get certificates installed on them. And if they expire, they're supposed to be automatically renewed, before they expire, obviously. But if the machine don't have access to internet, that is not going to happen. I can imagine that can cause some troubles. It could also be that organizations are configuring the Intune device health configurations. Basically, if a device is not contacted within 90, 180, up to the maximum is 270 days, it should be basically removed from Intune or retired from Intune. So there are policies that you can configure for that. But other than that, I don't know if it's like a fixed deadline from when the device becomes non-functional just because it wasn't connected. I would suspect other issues would happen before that, like activation, and especially if you have subscription-based activation.
It's going to start getting cranky a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, cleanup rules is the word for it.
Yeah, I see a follow-up comment here in the chat. Big issue and couldn't fix that besides re-enrolling or wiping the device. Yep.
Yeah. So in my tenant, I have it set up for 180, which is, I think, this is just a lab. So this is a little bit more in the extreme case. So maybe 90 or 120 for normal production.
Yep. So Matt just followed up just to mention that speaking about offshore locations, no internet at all, maybe once every 6 months that they would be contacting Intune.
I mean, in general, if you have devices that are offline most of the time, Intune is probably not the best platform for management. You would more likely want to use an on-premises platform that was basically designed for that behavior.
Have you ever actually worked with any folks that had like ConfigMgr deployed out at a totally remote?
Oh yeah, ferries, yeah, even submarines, the army. But yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, they maybe connect once in a couple of months sometimes, and it just
I imagine that adds a little bit of a challenge, but obviously one that's solvable.
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I think ConfigMgr is going to stick around for longer than most people think, because there will always be organizations who have that need to be a little bit disconnected by its very nature of business.
Yep. Well, I mean, I don't know if you shared something, Johan, or if I saw it somewhere else, that Microsoft is even bringing some of the M365 services to Azure Local.
Yes, they were. SharePoint and Exchange is coming to Azure Local, which I am going to sit on the sideline and watch that one to see how well it behaves.
Yeah.
I gave up on local Exchange long time ago.
I know so many people that as soon as Exchange Online was ready to go for prime time, we're going. But, I mean, there is literally zero about Intune in that announcement. So let me be clear that I'm not starting any rumors here. But, who knows where that could lead in the future.
Yeah, indeed.
All right.
All right. What else?
Let's see here. Matthew had a follow-up here. Device enrollment manager account, not for Autopilot, correct? Yes. In fact, one of the first blurbs in the documentation here is you don't need a device enrollment manager account for that scenario because the enrollment limit doesn't exist for Autopilot. So, yes, great question. Yeah, Jamie, so many RPA processes still use VBScript. Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest shockers. Maybe not shockers, but, when they announced that it was going to be deprecated last year, it was like, whoa. Well, and you've made the point a couple of times, even on here, Johan, so much of there's even so much VBScript happening within Windows still.
Yeah.
So,
Microsoft had a post. I forgot who wrote that one. It was just recently. They shared some ideas on how to inventory your usage of it, like think software metering. See if I can find that one. I can swear we shared it in office hours here. I think even it was Cheryl who actually tweeted about it.
Yeah.
Time to put a place. Found it. I knew it was Mike. He's also everywhere.
It's true.
This one here, yeah. So Microsoft did put in basically a design strategy for you, or deprecation strategy to get rid of it. What you need to do of so using tools like Sysmon or ConfigMgr to gather that information. Even scanning packages for it. So healthy dose of PowerShell into the mix. So this was a great read. Highly recommended.
Awesome. Matthew, and another follow-up question, I think around PSD. PowerShell deployment, is this similar to what OSDCloud does?
In a way, yes. It will help you get Windows down to device with some drivers. But PSD is based on MDT, so it also has a sequence engine with application support. And it also supports peering of content like branch cache. OSDCloud currently doesn't do that. I haven't checked out the latest version regarding app support, but last time I checked, it did not have like an equivalent of a sequence engine in it. But OSDCloud is great if you just have a need to very quickly get a clean image down to device where they have the drivers and settings that you need for it, including some stuff for Autopilot enrollment and whatnot in it. So it's a cool solution, and David, and to some extent Gary and others in the community, Akash and others, has really been contributing to that platform. So it's cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right. Does the issue with certs expiring and no connection happen for co-management devices? SCCM should still be talking with the device, is that right?
Well, that depends on your ConfigMgr setup, because if you are on PKI and ConfigMgr, well, you still need a client cert for ConfigMgr, and that needs to be functional. But yeah, as long as that one is updated, you're good. It could also be that you're running ConfigMgr in enhanced HTTP, and then you don't have the same requirement of a client cert. So yeah, you'll be able to reach the machine that way. Absolutely. Lots of good questions today.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Matthew's comment here, OSDCloud is great to rebuild and then let Autopilot do its thing. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning more about it, many resources are available for it. Great number of videos and community walkthroughs of setting it up. And so by all means, give it a test run and play around with it.
All right.
And there was a follow-up comment on VBScript here also. Aren't there like built-in scripts in Windows still using it? Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
yes. Try to run an activation script without VBScript, that's going to be hard.
Yep.
Even in the latest version of Windows 11 24, it's still VBScripts on that box. So do not be surprised if we still have VBScript around in the year of like 2030. I would not be surprised.
Yeah. It's like, when you go to migrate something, any system in an organization, and you keep finding things as you get closer and closer, or you find things after they break. This is like that to the extreme when Microsoft has to deprecate one of these things.
Yeah, but it's cool in a way, because that backwards compatibility is both a blessing and a curse. But I mean, I forgot how old I was. 16, 17, 18, writing batch files.
Yeah.
They're still around.
Yep.
Almost 40 years later. Still here, still being used. See them every other day.
And you would have been, what? It looks like in your early 20s when VBScript came out.
Sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right. All right. Any other questions? I have I have to share this one. I cannot stop myself.
There you go.
This is brilliant. We're gonna make a fortune, Andrew. VBScript consultants. That's the
Yes. That's the retirement plan.
yeah. Here we go.
Have to create the VBScript research blog.
Indeed, VBScriptresearch.com.
Yeah.
There we have it.
Yeah, at those rates, forget deployment and whatever.
Cool. Yeah.
That's a good one.
All right. Any other questions? Maybe we scared people away when we started to talk about VB scripts. I don't blame them.
No. Gary just mentioned hopefully AI will know how to fix and update VB scripts.
Well, AI in the testing I've done so far is not fantastic on converting VB scripts to PowerShell.
So start to make up things that don't exist and commandlets. I always find that one to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to this one here, that's a good one to keep in mind, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't see any more questions coming in. A comment from Gary here would be nice to have a VG info release to further support PowerShell on VBScript or versus VBScript. That would be nice if they would make that change. So far, I've been using PowerShell to write registry keys that VG info reads. But yeah.
Yep.
That would be nice.
Agreed.
All right, then. I guess that leaves us to basically say thank you, everyone, for joining today. We got off 10 minutes earlier this afternoon or evening. So next week, we wanted to let you know there is no next week from an office hours point of view. Andrew and I will be a summer break, different locations, but we won't be here. So you guys also get a break.
Yes.
So officially, next week, summer break. And we'll hope to see you again back in 2 weeks' time. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Well, an extra week to come up with questions for the next one. So thank you, Johan, and thank you, everybody.
All right.